Hey, welcome to Keeping It Real Estate with Gavin. And we're here with Nici Johnson. Hey, good morning, Nici.
Hey, good morning, Gavin.
So today we're going to talk about multiple offers because I think some folks think that that's not happening still, and it is. It just depends on the home that's listed. It depends on your unique area.
Yep.
Depends on the price, condition, and location of the home. And if it checks the boxes for you as a buyer, it probably checks the boxes for a lot of others. So today we're going to talk a little bit about it's a bidding war, navigating multiple offers like a pro.
Okay. And this goes for both buyer and seller.
Buyer and sellers. I'm going to give both perspectives as much as I can. And
Okay.
obviously, we're tight on time here, but call me, guys, when you have questions specifically, because I've got so many stories about multiple offer situations, even in recent days and hours and today. So I've got a lot of anecdotal information I can provide with you offline. But anyway, my kind of introduction today is like, do you ever feel like the house you want has 10 offers on it and it's really popular and there's 30 showings, or as a seller you're overwhelmed by your choices? Let's unpack a little bit how to handle that multiple offer situation, whether you're buying or selling, and why does this topic matter? It's still very relevant in our market today. I know that there are areas of the country where it's cooled down. You're not seeing that as much. And I don't think we're seeing as many multiple offers over the list price or over asking that we did when interest rates were so low.
Right.
But I feel that we are still seeing it in popular price points and well-presented homes.
Yes.
Again, okay? So let's talk about, for sellers, the multiple offer situation and how that kind of puts you in a power position. So what is a multiple offer situation? This is where more than one buyer submits a written offer, a formal written offer at the same time. So you've got a house that you've sold. Offers are maybe due on a certain day, or maybe they're not. You're reviewing offers as they come in. But more than one buyer has formally submitted an offer on your home.
Okay.
And what that often does, as I've mentioned, is that usually is triggered by the price, condition, and location of the house.
Yes.
Okay, so oh my goodness, everybody's talking. It's the talk of the town on this particular house over on such and such street. You can anticipate already that there's a buzz, and it probably checks a lot of boxes for different types of buyers. That would probably initiate the fact that there will be multiple offers on that home. So what are the seller advantages? It can potentially drive up the price.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm not a proponent for under listing, being too low on a list price. I think it's got to be responsive to the current market, and that's a seller decision, and that's a whole other episode. But it could be that you end up getting your list price, your asking price, or a price over top of your list price. So that's a seller advantage. It also gives leverage to negotiate stronger terms for the seller, maybe flexible closing or waiving contingencies, because if you're comparing even just two offers, maybe you like the terms and conditions of one offer, but you like the price on the other.
Okay.
So let's say, for example, with multiple offers, we love that this particular financed offer came in at list price. They have a home inspection and things like that, but we would love to work with cash. So we go over to the cash offer and maybe say, hey, we have an offer with terms and conditions we like. We like your terms and conditions as well. We'd love to work with cash, but we are going to counter you on price.
Okay.
And again, that's a point of negotiation. But what this does, the advantages of multiple offers for a seller is the potential to drive up price and the leverage to negotiate. Okay. How do sellers decide between multiple offers? It's not always the highest price that they pick. It's not just price. And I tell my sellers this all the time. When we get an offer, the last thing I'm going to tell you is the price. I want you to hear me loud and clear on what the terms and conditions are.
Okay, yeah, because sometimes we can overlook that when we see those dollar signs.
Yeah, and you stop listening to me. So you've got to consider things like the financing type. Are we talking about a cash offer or something that's financed and requires a mortgage? And as we always talk in the market update, Nici, we talked about how many transactions are financed in our area and how many are cash, and we're still seeing a lot of cash. So sometimes sellers want to go with a cash offer simply because maybe the contingencies aren't as restrictive.
Okay.
Not always.
So I do have a quick question. I don't mean to stop you because I know you're on a roll. But
No worries.
when we're talking cash as opposed to getting the loan, right? So if I do submit something maybe with cash, does that mean the closing and everything goes faster as opposed to?
It could, not necessarily. It could because we're not involving a bank in their appraisal process and weeks on the transaction, but it could also be the desire of both parties not to close sooner.
Okay.
Okay? So it just depends. So when offers are submitted, there's a lot of terms and conditions on that offer, one being the estimated closing date. And even if you're cash and not working with a bank, it could be that you don't want to close until 60 days from now because you're moving here and you're not here yet.
Got it. Okay.
Right? So that's a point of negotiation. So how do sellers decide among multiple offers? Again, not always the highest price. It could be the financing type. It could be the inspection terms. Are we talking about a home inspection or not a home inspection? Well, septic, all these other things that might happen with terms of inspections, right? In the terms of that, the closing timeline, we just talked about that a little bit. Buyer flexibility, meaning does the buyer want early occupancy on the home? Is that possible? So in other words, is the buyer saying, hey, I want to buy this house, but and we can't close because of my financing until 60 days from now, but I need a place to live. Is it possible that I can move in before closing? And that's a whole other episode in and of itself. But that's something that maybe the seller is considering. So my strategy tip on this for sellers when you're looking at multiple offers, set an offer deadline. We call that delayed negotiations. And maybe, or choose, if you're not going to delay negotiations and make offers due a certain time, maybe say, hey, just bring your highest and best offer. There's no sense in, and I tell buyers this too, you should always put your best foot forward. Don't try to lowball the offer and come back later because you might not have a chance.
Right, yeah.
Okay? Again, another episode, but I also tell my sellers, weigh the net proceeds, the net, not just the price. Because at the end of the day, the purchase price is X amount, but are there seller concessions? Meaning, is the buyer asking you for closing costs?
Oh.
Do we expect any repairs that might need to be done? Are they asking for other terms and conditions so that maybe the price is $100,000, but by the time you take the 6% concessions out, we're only netting $95,000, $94,000.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because then, seller, you need to think about, I got to pay my agent, I got to pay my attorney, closing costs, all that. So that's why presenting these offers in detail is very important. It's not just, it sold for $100,000. Yes, but what was your net? At the end of the day, you have closing costs as a seller. It costs money to sell a house. It costs money to buy a house, not just the purchase price.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people get lost in that, just the final number of what.
Big time.
Yep.
That's why this multiple offer situation is important, and that's why I'm bringing it up. Because it takes a lot of work to get through these multiple offers. It's not just clear cut dried. And a lot of people go to that number, and that's not the whole story.
Yes.
It's
no, you're
all about the
absolutely
net.
right.
Absolutely.
100%.
So we need to look at who's most likely to make it to the closing table. So when I'm looking at multiple offers or any offer, we're also looking at the team of professionals on that transaction on either side. Mm-hmm. Do we know that agent's responsive? Have we worked with the agent before? And again, it's about properties, not people. But what's the likelihood? I always tell my sellers, we like to measure twice and cut once. Okay. So we try to, as we're analyzing offers, it's not just the purchase price. What's the likelihood that this is going to close? Are they contingent upon the sale of another property? Is that going to close before we close?
Yes.
Can it close? Will it close? Is it likely to close? So there's lots of things that go into involving that. Who's going to make it to the closing table? Sellers, you also have to think of it as choosing the most complete and committed offer, the cleanest offer. So if there's a lot of contingencies, like I have a house to sell, I want every home inspection ever, I'm asking for full 6% concessions. If they're asking for anything and everything, it's actually demonstrating that maybe the buyer's not willing to negotiate. And is that the best terms and conditions for the seller?
Absolutely. 100%.
Okay, so we want the most complete and committed offer. And what's my job or your agent's job is to help you compare apples to oranges.
Yep.
What does it mean at the end of the day? So that's what multiple offers and really looking at that and dissecting that means for sellers. For buyers, when you find yourself in a competitive situation, you have to understand that strategy is everything. And let me unpack what that means.
Yes,
The
please.
challenge is, in a competitive market, it can be an emotional roller coaster for buyers. You've heard me talk about buyer exhaustion. Maybe you've submitted several offers on several different homes and you keep missing the target for whatever reason. You should always be putting forth your best offer, but you've got to be prepared and have that stamina to understand. And that's why a good buyer's agent's important. You should understand what you're going into and not lowball or, understand the value of the home and see if it's really the right fit for you. Losing out on the one that you really loved can be really tough, but strategy is really important, and using your agent and working with your agent to develop that strategy and to prep for the win is critical, okay? It's like training, okay?
Yeah.
It's like sports.
No, that's
Real
sad.
estate
Been
is
there.
sport, okay? So how can buyers stand out? And this is what I tell my buyers. Get pre-approved first. We talk about that. You shouldn't be looking at a property or even with an agent yet until you're pre-approved. Consider the larger earnest money deposit. That deposit, and again, we can unpack this later with more buyer consultation episodes, but if you have your offer accepted, you have to deliver a deposit, which is different from your down payment. So maybe showing you've got more skin in the game that shows that you really want the house. You're not going to just walk away, because if you default on that, you lose the deposit. Maybe having a stronger deposit is going to help you in a multiple offer situation. Maybe not.
Okay. Being
flexible with a closing date. What are the needs of the seller? Do they need a quick closing? So can you quick closely? Or can you close quickly? That's important. Limit your contingencies if you're comfortable. I'm never going to tell you to waive a home inspection and things like that. But do you need all those seller concessions? Do you need all that money back from the seller when you know you're going to have 5 other offers on the same property that's probably not asking for any closing costs from the seller? If that's what you need to purchase the home, you need to put your best foot forward. But you have to understand it's in your best interest in a multiple offer situation to limit your contingencies.
Right.
Maybe use an escalation clause if the seller is accepting one. We've talked a little bit about an escalation clause. So in other words, I want to come in at list price. I'd love to acquire the property at that, but I don't want to lose the home for $1,000, right? On purchase price. So maybe I put in an escalation clause in my offer. So if the house is $100,000, that's where I'm putting my offer in. But if there's a competing offer or offers, I'm willing to go to 110. And I have an escalation clause that I will see and raise that competing offer by $1,000 increments up to my ceiling of 110.
Okay.
It's like poker. Some of you call it eBay. I love to say that it's like eBay, but I've never done eBay.
What?
Never, ever. Sorry, I'm that person. But yes, it becomes a little bit like poker and things like that. But that's called an escalation clause. So you need to really talk to your agent about how that works, what it means to you, and is the seller even accepting that in the review of offers?
Okay.
A lot of people will say, well, this was my grandmother's house and I really love it. And can we tell the sellers that, it's grandma so-and-so's, whatever. You got to be really careful. In real estate, we call that love letters, and it's not legal to do that. That's against fair housing. It's about properties, not people. And sometimes you get people that get that information in cleverly, but it's not something that you really should do.
No, but I could definitely see that emotional, personal attachment to property is very real.
Yes, it is.
I do see it.
Yeah. So you got to be careful. You're not going to put that in the offer. You talk to your agent about that is what I'm going to say. What not to do, buyers. Don't get overextended financially just to win. Because at the end of the day, you put everything you've got into it. And if you regret that you don't do it, to, not hurt your chances of getting the property, that's one thing. But then all of a sudden when they say, hey, congratulations, your offer was accepted. Oops. Are you ready for that?
Yeah.
So don't overextend yourself. And don't waive important protections without serious consideration, like inspections. Okay. So if you're doing that just because you want to be competitive and everybody else, and we don't always know what the other offers are doing. We rarely do. But if you're just doing that to make your offer stand out and you're not truly comfortable with that, do not do that. It's going to bite you later.
Yeah.
So I tell my buyers, be clear about your walkaway number. That's why when we have our buyer consultation, we need to know our budget. We need to know, and it might change according to the property, right? This is the house you live.
Yes.
Then maybe you're willing to go to your max, okay? But you need to be clear about your walkaway number. If they come and if they negotiate and they counter you at a certain level, you just know you can't do it. Don't do it. Don't put yourself in harm's way. You need to stick to your budget and what makes sense for you as a buyer. And it's a marathon, remember, the home buying process, not necessarily a sprint.
That's
my sports analogy here.
Yeah.
Okay? If it's meant to be, we'll get it done. But sometimes you just have to know when to walk away. It's a key thing with negotiating, right? So the balance, the dual sides of a hot market, and that's kind of where we still are in the Northeast in our area. Not every property is experiencing multiple offers. I happen to be on the side of 2 transactions right now, or 2 properties where we are. So multiple offers can feel exciting or exhausting.
Yeah.
depending on your side of the table. Are you a buyer or a seller? That's why a knowledgeable agent's really critical. They need to be able to guide you with facts, not just feelings. They got to be the one that points to at the end of the day, but this is your net, and this is what it's going to be. And are you comfortable with that as a buyer? You know, this is what your mortgage payment will be on that. Or sellers, can you walk away and feel confident that maybe you didn't get your highest price, but you've got a very good, strong offer that's going to close?
And see, that's where you've said it multiple times, comes in the idea of interview your agent, find the one that you feel very good about, connected with, of course, the consultation, all that fun stuff. I can't help but to think I would want absolutely my agent to be very open and honest about the situation and not, flub
That's right,
anything
Nici.
for money. But the idea of going through everything that you just said, that process, and having somebody like you on my team, I think is very important to have you as the seller or the buyer be very open as well to listen. Criticism, whether it's good or bad,
Yes.
or any feedback or anything, period.
That's right.
Take it.
The devil's in the details, right?
Yes.
Real estate isn't difficult, it's detailed.
That's why I say you're our best friend. We're hiring our best
You
friend
got
for the
it.
moment to help us through the situation.
And that's what my role is on either side, and that's what any agent's role is to keep you protected and empowered.
Yes.
So that you feel that you are in control, because it can be a roller coaster, and a lot of folks will even say, I don't want to be involved in the bidding war. It's too emotional, it's too crazy. But sometimes that's just how are you going to regret not trying?
Yep.
And that's a conversation I have. So, just to recap, multiple offer situations are intense, but they're navigable. You can get through them with the right game plan. So it's like training, okay?
Yeah.
It's like sports athletics, right? You've got to train for the big day. If you have a house to sell, we want to prep it to attract the competition, because for the sellers, obviously having multiple offers is attractive, because then you're able to leverage your negotiating power.
Yep.
It's likely that the home will sell, and there's likely you'll find something in the mix there that you can work with, and that's exciting for the seller. But if you're ready to buy, we need to work on strategies to make your offer shine. How do we stand out? And so your agent's going to guide you with that. So if you want to win in this market without losing your mind, we need to talk strategy. That's why the consultation is really important. So if you want to talk more about multiple offers or anything real estate related, give me a buzz, 585-344-1321. Let's talk about this scenario of multiple offers, or just real estate in general, so we can realize your real estate goals in this local market.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gavin.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. Thanks for listening today. Appreciate it. And again, we're here keeping it real estate on WBTA.
Absolutely. I love it. And yes, I hope you all enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and we'll be back next week.